Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to our 2021 Winter BECADocs Film Festival. My name is Andrew Hongo. I'm the instructor for the class. Here at SFSU's BECA department, I teach broadcast television as well as documentary film. And what a treat to have all of you out here this evening. My heart is just overflowing with gratitude at all of you for being here, and also with pride at my students slash colleagues who have done really amazing work this semester. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the class that these students are involved in, just so you have an idea of that before we jump into our documentaries. But it's a documentary production class. So back in August, we sat around a table and said, what are documentary stories that you'd be interested in producing? Who are the voices that you would have in these documentaries? Kind of what are the visual style that you would employ in doing this documentary? And for me, the most important question is, what stories do you want to tell? What are you passionate about? Because let me tell you something. Producing a documentary is really hard work, and there are many times when it's really discouraging. So you have to have a topic that you're passionate about that will keep you motivated for the duration of the project. And I'm pleased to say that all of our filmmakers today, you can see in the work, what shines through is their passion for these topics and the people who are involved in these stories. I also want to tell you that some of the students coming in had a lot of production experience with videography. Some had very little, and so it was a steep learning curve for some of us, but our students really came together and helped each other, and it was a really wonderful learning experience for all of us. So the way that this is going to work tonight is we're going to screen 4 documentaries. After each documentary, I'm going to have the filmmaker come up and say a quick word about their inspiration or their process, and then we'll open the floor to any comments or questions that you may have. You can feel free to ask. I would like to ask you, as the facilitator, to keep all of our comments and questions as encouraging and positive as possible in the celebratory spirit that we're gathered here tonight. So thank you so much for that. All right, so if I can get this to work. Our first film tonight is by Alexander Whittlesey. Woohoo! And it's entitled, Do You Live Here? Go ahead, Tony, thank you.
So I think I might be psychic. I am psychic. Everyone's psychic. But I was always psychic as a kid. I always saw deaths before they happened. And my mom was a little kind of psychic, so she identified that in me, and dealt with I used to see spirits all the time in my house. So it was very scary. Our first house on Lawrence Place was haunted. It's so weird. This last time when I was in the hospital, I had this dream that somehow I went down this elevator chute and I was down in the basement of the hospital. Down in the basement with piles of coals and a furnace. And I kept telling them, I don't belong here. I belong. Where's the elevator to take me back up? Can't you see that I don't belong down here? And I kept asking everyone directions, how do I get out of this cave? And they would point in that direction, and I'd look in that direction, and I kept walking, and I couldn't get any place. And I woke up in the hospital screaming, and the nurse came over and said, what's going on? I was like, oh, I had a nightmare. Well, I'm a free spirit. I really am. I don't conform to anyone else's rules, but my own. And, I like to dance. I'm a dancer, really. I am a natural dancer. I'm a writer. I like writing flash fiction and screenplays. I just like writing anything. I probably can write in any genre. but I like telling stories. That was my major. I collect rock and roll memorabilia. I like that. I have quite a nice poster collection, I think. I'm also a Beatle maniac, and I have been a Beatle maniac all of my life. So I'm sort of an expert on the Beatles. I've read just about everything there is to know about them, so I'm sort of bored with there isn't any new information about the Beatles. That's the sad thing. There's nothing new I can learn about them. So, but those are my hobbies. I also an ex-marathoner. I used to run. I am a survivor, definitely a survivor. I can't tell you how many times I've had cancer, maybe 5 times, and I survived. Oh yeah, grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. You know I have to be a survivor in order to grow up in Paterson, New Jersey. That was a rough town. Even in the 60s and the 50s when I was living there. It was a rough environment to be in. So anyway, that's who I am. What do you think? Besides being a mother of raising 3 boys, are you kidding me? I was a single mother. So I raised 3 successful boys, kept them out of trouble. I was a tough mom. You can tell them that. You can testify to that, Alex.
I would say the embodiment of persistence, perseverance. I take a lot of my motivation from my experience knowing her. We had like one night where I don't really remember what the circumstance was around it, but the only place that you had found to live was that little tiny studio above what used to be Ito's White Tiger in downtown Nevada. Yeah, it's a transitional period.
That was me and your dad splitting, going separate ways.
So all there was a mattress on the floor, and I knew that I wanted to be with my mom, right? For whatever reason, I did not want to be with my dad. Like the situation, Anyway, the story is the moral of the story is that that was a difficult situation. I think that was stressful for you, and she did everything she could do to give me the creature comfort to feel like everything was okay, and that's the kind of thing that a mom does, and that's something that I draw upon a lot. I've been thrust into every single thing that I do when I ever try to change and get better is like incredibly challenging. Going to India was a situation like that where it was like, oh, he's either gonna knock it out of the park and make it happen, or he's gonna fail. And if he fails, fuck him, who cares, right? Fuck that guy, he's just a piece of shit. Like he's worth nothing. And so situations like that, even now, I'm getting ready to have a huge challenge put in front of me. But like when your last New Year's, when your stomach, you're having the trouble of that. And I was sitting right there. You know, I was dealing with vice presidents at my company, and I was taking care of you, and I was hair falling out of my head, and I was like, well, what are you made of? You know? So. And
we're screaming at each other.
Yeah, and then we were screaming at each other, yeah, at a certain point in time. It was like middle of the night. I was like, what do you want me to do?
Let's have control.
I was like, what do you want me to do? So yeah.
No, you're stubborn. You're a Capricorn.
Yeah, we're both. Yeah, but you're a stubborn Cancerian.
Man,
my God, you're a stubborn Cancerian. But yeah, that story, even just with you two in the room, it's hard for me to tell without like choking up a little bit.
Well, supposedly we're complete opposites. That's why we're good for one another.
Okay.
Because Capricorns are the opposite of Cancerians, so that's why I have so many Capricorns in my life.
Okay.
Which is practically everyone, my entire family. So, we get along, kiddo. Oh boy, you one of 3.
Yep.
I remember that instant, that part where we were living in that place down in that little apartment. While I was living in that little apartment, I was coming in. Badru and I were coming in, and the guy snatched my purse as I was coming in the house. Oh, you guys don't read. He snatched my purse and ran up as I was getting out of the car or going inside. Badru and he ran up the alley, and Badru, without thinking, went charging up the alley after the guy. And when he got to the guy pulled a gun on him. And he was like, "Okay, man, you can keep the purse." Yeah. Eye surgery. What can I say? I'm worried. Come on, let's go. Not only do I have cataracts, but I have glaucoma as well. I have macular degeneration, I have cataracts, and I have glaucoma. So anyway, the windows of the world, they need help. And Coke bottle glasses were always unattractive. So kids always made fun of my eyeglasses when I was growing up. Okay.
All right, take care now.
Thank you.
It
Wasn't scary at all. You know what's so weird is I thought I was having surgery on my left eye. She told me it was my left eye, okay? Because we had a whole discussion. I was like, "Oh, too bad, that's my strong eye." And she was like, "Well, it's the one that has the most deposit." So I get in there and they're telling me, "We have you operating on your right eye." I was like, "What are you talking about?" She said it's my left eye. And then the lady's going to prep me, and she says, "Well, I got to wait now that you're saying it's supposed to be your left eye." So they had to wait until the doctor came, and the doctor wasn't sure. She said, "Let me go over my notes." And then she says, "Yes, it is your right eye. You're having surgery on your right eye. You're not having surgery on your left eye." Then she made a mistake. I don't know, but she doesn't remember that she and I had a whole conversation about her operating on my strong eye. And she said, "No, remember, we decided to operate on your left eye because that's your weakest eye, and we felt we could repair the vision." I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know. The medical community thinks that I'm fragile. I don't feel fragile. I just feel like it's just another hurdle. I'm constantly going over hurdles, and I'm doing it, you know. And I know as I get older, there's going to be more hurdles to go through. But you know, I'm taking them very well. I'm getting through them, you know. I'm not emotional around that. It's like I accept it as a part of life, that this is a part of living. If you want to continue to live, you have to keep doing this. My first surgery was when I was 14 years old, a sleigh riding accident. I ruptured my kidney and my spleen, and I lost my spleen in that surgery, and I almost died. I was on the critical list, and I had lost a lot of blood, and I got very sick. So I was in intensive care for a solid week. Rosie was telling me there was a sign on the end of my hospital bed that was leaning towards death. And you were not supposed to talk to me. And during surgery, I flatlined. And I remember leaving my body and being on top. I remember everything that happened and what was said in the OR. And I told my doctor, and he said yes. He said all those things, and I was supposed to be conscious. But I left my body, and I was observing the surgery and everything they said. So, you know, I had actually died practically on the table, but I had been unconscious that whole time, you know. I had been unconscious. it was nice getting away. It was nice coming here to heal from being, homeless and for that short period of time. I think I was homeless for 6 months or so, maybe. It was a good place to land after, after going through all of that in Fairfax. I left Fairfax during a vulnerable time. I had just had my real serious bout with cancer because it had gotten out. All my other cancers had never gotten past stage 2 or outside of the area, outside of the colon. But this last time when I lost my colon, it was stage 3. It had gotten right outside of the colon, and I had to have chemotherapy. And while I was going through chemotherapy is when I remember we had a issue with the plumbing. There was a leak in our garage. They gave us the excuse that they needed the apartment. We needed to move because they had to renovate and tear all of that out and repair it. And when the real reason was they just wanted us to move so that they can raise the rent. And so we were presented with a notice that we had to be out in 30 days, which was like, I was going through chemo at the time, and it was like, oh my God. So I was homeless. We had to move. I couldn't find a place. I was in the middle of a crisis. I was homeless for a minute. I had to live in a shelter for a month. And that was very rough, living in a shelter with a bunch of people and in an ileostomy, meaning I had to get up many times at night and empty my bag, which was kind of disturbing all the other tenants. And then I got called about these places. They both came up at one time. I had a choice of going into Hamilton or coming out here, and I chose Point Reyes Station. So it's been a challenge living in Marin, being Black in Marin, because it's not a whole lot of Black folks living in Marin unless you go down to Marin City. And I've had to deal with a lot of discrimination here. In Fairfax, I remember the year that I had the surgery, and my doctors had told me they wanted me to exercise. I had to walk the neighborhood, and I would walk the hills of Fairfax. And I remember walking one day, and this man came up to me and said, "Do you live here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I live here." He says, "Well, where do you live?" And I thought I couldn't understand why he was saying that, but I said, "Yeah, I've been living here. I live on Willow." I says, "I've been there for 10 years." He says, "Well, I've been here for 25 years. And then he just drove off. So I was like, it was kind of his way of saying, get out of the neighborhood to me. You hear so much about Russ Marin being racist, but it's very cool out here. People, because there isn't this divide between the haves and the have-nots here. People here are cool in Point Reyes Station. I can say that I don't feel like I'm getting discriminated against here at all. I don't pick up on that energy. And if I do pick up on that energy, it's from outsiders coming here on the weekend, tourists that come here and they see a Black person and, they're not used to being around. And they have this weirdness, because people come here from all over the world. So, and you kind of, during the weekend, people from Point Reyes who live here they kind of stay in and let the tourists take over the town. And then when they leave on Monday, we have control of our town again. That's how it is out here. That's how locals roll. That's why I moved out here. I've had dreams about death, that I was in the hospital ward or that I was someplace. Well, my dreams have always been being in a hospital ward, and death is a a woman with, she looks like a bride, only everything is pseudo black. She's wearing a black veil, she's wearing a black dress, and I'm trying to chase underneath her to lift up her veil, and then, you know, she turns around and I'm like running in the other direction. So I've had that dream a couple of times. And then the last dream I had of death was same lady. I spotted her across the street somewhere. And when I spotted her, I tried to run in the other direction. And then I looked around and she was standing right behind me. Look at this beautiful day and this beautiful view. And just being blessed every day that I'm here and I'm still alive, you know? And I still got places to go and people to see. And I still have stories to write. And I'm going to be writing them.
Alex, I just want to say, I've had to watch this film many times in our screenings, and every time there's something new to appreciate about it. You have such a gift for marrying unexpected picture with story that is just so evocative and poetic. And you've painted this really beautiful, intimate portrait of someone who clearly means a lot to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Hongo, and thank you to everyone for coming. I don't know what to say. It's so crazy seeing it on this screen. Also, it just colors and everything just looks so different. But yeah, this was a project. I decided I wanted to, tell a story about my mother, and I think she's a really exciting person that has a lot to share. And I guess I was just kind of worried that, someday she might not be here and she wouldn't be around to tell that story. So it was kind of, I don't know, it was my first really big documentary, and it's just crazy that, I think you kind of start out with one direction and it really went somewhere completely different than it I thought it was going to go. So I had a lot of fun. I guess that's it. I'm just really happy to be in this program. I'm also really interested I work in housing in the East Bay for, the homeless. And so I'm just really interested in space and stories about space. And it's really good to be able to kind of come from really intense situations. I think yesterday I was in like a drug den, to be able to come here and talk about and think about things that I'm interested in. So yeah, any questions or comments? Yeah, open it up.
Well, the documentary really made me want to know more about your mom.
Yeah, she's a writer, and hopefully she can get her story out there. She couldn't come out here today because she was so far out in her eyes. Yeah.
Did you do any color correcting on it, or is that just raw?
It's mostly natural color correcting. Actually, the only color correcting I did, good question, was actually on those posters, the rock posters. Because when I was shooting them inside, I just turned the hue up a little bit. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thanks.
That was amazing. And
Oh.
I would love for you to do a sequel after your mom sees Get Back. Have
Yeah.
you seen that yet?
I know, I want to get rid of that. I've been thinking about how to get,
That's volume 2 of this documentary.
yeah, see what she says. Okay, well, hey, thank you guys.
All right, next up we have Gardening Bayview by Molly, Blair, Salyer.
March 2020 was a pretty hard time for pretty much everybody. Quarantine, lockdowns, isolation, it all became pretty overwhelming, and things started to get a little weird. It was springtime, though, and she won't be ignored. I started spending time in my mother's garden, which I'm lucky to be able to call my garden, though she does all the work. When this little home oasis helped me to feel a bit better, I started to venture out a little. My friend Christina lives nearby with her small family. Having good friends so close was a lifeline in the darkest months of the pandemic.
I think that gardening is just extremely different from my professional career. I'm someone who needs sort of an explanation for why I'm spending free time doing something. I'm not a great just leisure activity person without it also serving some practical purpose. So gardening is practical because it is, helps make your space more beautiful. It helps attract the birds and the bees and, improves the ecosystem in a variety of ways.
That's a ladybug. Is it a ladybug?
It's gratifying, because you get to watch things become more beautiful, sometimes not. You get to experience failure, but you also get to experience lots of success. And you get to keep trying and, working at it. I think the good part of it for me is that it's not a project that ends necessarily. It's kind of a dynamic process, and it always needs tending to and upgrades and changes.
Does the rake have spiders? Yes.
It helps me to have a reason to use my body, to use my hands, to use my mind in a very, very different way than I do in the rest of my life. Do we make tea?
This is pineapple shake.
Want me to try it? Pineapple.
Bayview Hunters Point was a neighborhood built on industry and for industry, without much regard for the people that lived and worked here. Over time, this has led to the neighborhood feeling very remote from the rest of San Francisco. It's a neighborhood that is full of surprises, has sweeping bay views, hence the namesake, and is dotted throughout with cheerful pops of green space where neighbors love to gather. One of the great community gardens in Bayview, Adam Rogers Park, is nestled on the south slope of Hunters Point Hill, right behind Christina's house. I met up at Adam Rogers with Danielle and Isaiah, who have a gardening nonprofit in the neighborhood called Dragon Spunk Grow. They manage several small plots in Bayview, helping green space to thrive and provide.
Gardening, I love it because the obvious. Gardening gives you food if you do it right. It brings people together. And then we're doing work together, and before you know it, we're talking and we're friends, and then more friends come by, and we're sharing food, and then before you know it, we have a little community.
I love to see people come together and the networks that we build when we're in a garden, because we get to see people come out from, that we maybe normally wouldn't get a chance to meet them.
It is a great way to make friends and keep friends and solidify relationships. And might sound crazy. I think plants can be friends of a sort. They're not going to talk back at you, but there is a communication that happens on an esoteric spiritual level, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, because we need to garden. The earth needs us to garden.
And it just gives me a sense of, I don't know, just hope.
But garden's a great therapy. It helps take the edge off. You're angry about going through some things, go out and garden, and it gives you another perspective. The endorphins start kicking in because the plants actually stimulate your endorphins. That's their way to tell you, hey, take care of us so we can take care of you. Bite this, lover.
I'm gonna bite it.
This makes you feel like you can do something as a human being. This is what makes you feel like something. Because you can eat this. This is real. This is what's the only thing that's real. It's material. This is real. We didn't go to a store to buy because there ain't no stores anywhere near here. This is the value of Bayview.
Latona Garden is a tiny little strip of land right above 3rd Street that Danielle and Isaiah also manage. I had a chat with Marcus, a neighbor and longtime volunteer, about why he loves gardening and working with neighbors to beautify a space.
I've always been connected to nature. I grew up in the West Country in the UK, out literally in the countryside. There's more sheep and cows than people. So I've always loved nature. I became a vegetarian when I was 9 years old because I was friends with the cows. I enjoy plants. There's so many forms. They're just so amazing. I enjoy the design aspect of it because in my job I'm actually a designer, not a garden designer. It's a design thing. It's very accessible. I'm surprised more people don't garden because it's not expensive. Previous places I was living in where I didn't own, so I just had a rental. I would just go and take cuttings from the sidewalk and you can grow a garden just with that. You get to spend basically next to nothing. It's not too hard. Once you get the basics down, you plant stuff, it grows. Sometimes it doesn't. You learn. But anyone can do it. And I really love more people to realise that get into it, because I find it so rewarding when it comes together and you see the beauty of it. So, especially with the current thing happening and everything, so many horrible things going on that I guess I got a bit down in the dumps about it, and then so it's been really nice. Now the flowers are starting to grow, and I've just been in here and people just stop by the fence, neighbours stop by the fence and say, oh, it's looking really nice.
The Casada Gardens initiative began with Annette Smith and Carl Page in 2002 when they started tending the long-neglected median outside their house. Nearly 2 decades later, the garden is still being cared for by neighbors and many volunteers, and has helped to inspire and establish gardens just like this throughout our neighborhood. If you live in Bayview, you know about Casada Gardens. It's only a block long, but what a block. The views are so good.
What does gardening give me? That is a pretty profound question. Taking a teeny, tiny little seed and putting it in the ground and getting the conditions right, and it turning into this big thing. It's just infinitely satisfying to me. Pair this sunflower just using corn stalks and grass. maybe the last couple hours. First thing I do every day is go out in the backyard and sort of look at things and give things a little water, you know, do a little weeding or pruning or whatever. Connection to the earth, I guess, is the main thing that's satisfying about it. It's, you know, you feel the seasons, which aren't very prominent in the Bay Area, but certainly, like, this is such an incredible day. The first significant rain of the year was last night, so everything is different today than it was yesterday, and it's really exciting to me to have an excuse to sit here in the garden for a while and smell the smells and see everything looking a little cleaner and a little happier than it was yesterday. Being a part of this particular garden has been a big part of my life for the last 20 years. And we've always had large groups of volunteers who come work in the garden. And because of the pandemic, that stopped. And so I really missed that. Just like being a group of people physically working really hard is fun. And, you know, like being able to kind of go up and down from group to group and be like, oh my God, you guys are doing an amazing job. Here's another shovel that'll work a little better for that. These clippers are going to make that go faster. And all these people are just like, dig, dig, dig. And they're all happy and having fun. And so none of that for a year, or a year and a half, really. Several of the neighbors have, like, the spot out in front of their house they take care of. There's a few people who kind of expand out and work beyond just in front of their own houses. I'll just say how grateful I am to have been a part of this for the last 20 years. It has been like really one of the richest parts of my life. Getting to know the people here, getting to know what can grow. Just seeing how a really small group of people can literally completely transform a landscape and a culture in a 1 block long stretch of a city.
Could we get the house lights on, please? Thanks. Molly, this is the film that we needed at this point in our lives. Just the life and the growth and the color that you portray. I love how the story is about you coming to life in your mom's garden through the pandemic. It's about the city coming to life through these green spaces. And for me, it's been really a pleasure to see you come to life as your own storyteller and finding your voice.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. I didn't expect Professor Hongo to make me cry a little bit right before I had to come up here, but this has just been such an amazing experience. I was living a very different life before the pandemic struck as a hostel manager, and I, went through all the stages that we all went through. And, my friend Christina, I've known forever, and she lives in the neighborhood, like you saw, and she introduced me to Danielle and Isaiah, who are here tonight, and she got me in touch. Yes, thank you. She got me in touch with Shane at Casada Gardens, who's also here tonight, so thank you so much. And I just really surprised at how many overlaps there are to the process of going through making a documentary and gardening. There's a lot of, effort that doesn't go noticed, and a lot of a lot of effort that does go, come to fruition. And so I just wanted to thank my classmates and all of my community. Thank you so many people for being here tonight. And to all the people that were helpful in the film. I mean, actually, 2 people that are here tonight were filmmakers in their own right. Shane graduated from BECA in 1990, I think? 96, excuse me. So that's cool, alumni. And yeah, it really means so much to me to have such a strong community, and I just have enjoyed this class so much, and thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for me? Yes, Marie.
I'm super geeky for gardening, and I live near. I've been to all those gardens.
Really?
Most of those gardens.
Great.
Actually, 2 I didn't know about. But I just think you did such an incredible job of making the documentary mirror the experience of being in a garden. In that you can't look at everything all at once, right? And every time you go through the garden, it's going to be a little bit different. And I'm thinking especially that shot of fixing the collapse
Sunflower. Yeah.
And we watch that for a while, but we don't see the flower until the end.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what it's like. And I just think he just did such an amazing job of really, like I said, just like making the documentary feel like the experience of discovering a garden. So
Thank you for that. Thank you. I feel like the sunflower is definitely saying thank you to Shane as well for giving it another chance. So, thank you. Anybody else? Penny. I didn't do them. So this is my mother, who I meant to give a specific, Penny Blair, who I meant to give a specific shout out to. My dad, Kim Salyer, is also here. Penny is a wonderful gardener. My dad has been in film forever, so thank you to both of you for setting those roots in action. Yes, Ito, who's part of the department, helped me with the drone shots, and he was amazing. I mean, we practiced a little bit at the tiniest garden, and he found some really creative ways, and this last shot was like, mwah, so beautiful. Like, and Casada Gardens is so pretty. All these gardens are so beautiful in their own right, but you really can't understand the neighborhood without that kind of higher up look. And I just really appreciated getting that footage because it was like really brought the film together, I thought. And that was another great example of how working together in the department is key.
Thank you, Professor Connie, for setting that up.
Oh, yes, thank you. I knew you. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
All right, we can turn the house lights down. Next up, we have Black and Blue by Holden Aguirre.
It's going to be at least a Yes.
My name is Drago. A lot of people think that like Leather and King is just like about sex and things like that, but there's more about that. There's like the camaraderie, the brotherhood. I like wearing leather in the first things, like it's the smells kind of like close me up and things like that. But at the same time, as a gay man, like it's just like it makes me confident wearing it, and it just makes me masculine.
I feel really powerful in leather. I think that it makes me feel very strong, and it makes me feel very dominant.
On one end, it makes me feel that I belong to a community of people who are not necessarily like-minded, because we all have different fetishes and we all like different things, but at least people who are open-minded and who will not be judgy, will be very understanding. And on a physical level, it makes me feel really good. It makes me feel attractive and sexy in a way that maybe I wouldn't feel if I'm not using it. And I know it gets It got me a husband.
Like, I did graphic design, that's not for me. There's like a spectrum of like when someone says leather, there's like wearing leather as fashion versus wearing leather as a fetish. The word leather can encompass so much. It is evolving just like anything, but it's a slow process because of tradition is hard to evolve out of. I'm deep into leather, like motorcycles, BDSM, like the whole thing. That's why I do what I do. And I'm making things that are going to last forever. Trimming things off like this is a part of detail work. This one's a special order. It's easier to clean from, sweat or whatever sort of body fluid happens. Sometimes people don't know, like, the nature of leather. Constructing this stuff is kind of like soft sculpture. I really honestly didn't think that this could be a thing that people do. I always wanted to be like a fashion designer. I didn't think I had enough money to do that, or I wasn't the right kind of person to do that. Why does leather have to be a certain thing? There's no rules to leather. Leathercore is my brand, so I'm doing my best to kind of unite utilitarian style, queer style, things that I want to wear, basically, with leathercore. I don't agree with how intensely overwhelming and out of control it is with how many animals are slaughtered. I use a lot of scrap. I don't cut into like fresh hides all the time. I think leather's for everyone, even people that want to wear something as a huge fashion statement. Great. Also, if you want to explore BDSM, I'm available.
My name is Race Bannon. I've taught probably 300 classes in my lifetime to various audiences. I've spoken to audiences from 12 people in a room to 3,000 in a room. I've been in the scene a very long time, and I've been very involved in the community for a long time. No one really knows the definitive source of leather, but we certainly know some of the likely origins. Military men being discharged, so that kind of militaristic background, was very comfortable with authority figures and uniforms and things like that. Couple that with the biker aesthetic that was very appealing to the hyper-masculine gay men of that era, and you end up with Leatherman. The Wild One absolutely was influential. It was one of the first kind of iconic hyper-masculine figures. Indeed, it did influence leather culture in adopting that kind of look. A lot of younger people in particular are eschewing the word leather, adopting other ways of describing themselves besides leather, because they see leather as kind of an old paradigm. I don't think that anyone consciously defined leather as a hyper-masculine symbol. I think it did come to mean that.
When I first came to Mr. S, I already knew how to sew. I was already making a lot of things. My name is Skeeter. I've been here for 28 years. So it started off very much as one of several mom and pop type stores in San Francisco. Small hole-in-the-wall leather places. Mr. S kept growing and growing, like it blossomed. When I think of leather, I think of power. I think of creativity, because for me, I create with leather. So I think about creativity and expression. And I also think of it in terms of traditional, because, in the leather community, there is very sort of much an old guard traditional feel to the chaps, the sort of the breeches, the jackets, so Tom of Finland look. I just think it's a lot you can do with leather that makes it really adaptable. And so I get excited because I'm like, I could do so much with that. The smell of leather, the look of leather, the feel of leather, really makes people happy. Our tagline of when you're ready for the best, it's that thing of our craftsmanship has just been honed to a fine point. We are a company that has employed people in the community. And we have a wide range of folks. We have trans folks, we have, queer folks, we have women, we have men, we have non-binary, we have, you know, a lot of our tailors and sewers are from the Chinese community. We have, you know, really incredible skilled crafts people from the Latino community. So I think that what we do is we represent in the whole company across every department, and it's big, is a really beautiful mixture of people from all different backgrounds. Some into SM, and some into the play, and some into the culture, and some not. They're just incredible tailors or sewers or craftspeople. It represents different things to different people. For some people it's fashion, for other people it's really like, it says something, it's a statement. We kind of operate like a village, and there's just this collaboration and this, it's just really nice to see it. People from very, very different backgrounds coming together and working together and collaborating. So I think that makes us very special.
I grew up in the 80s watching like for those characters, those like super muscly guys in their costumes. Leather makes me feel like a superhero. You know, leather gives me the confidence, and I feel like it gives other people the confidence to either like say something that you wouldn't normally say, or actually like do something that you really want to do but probably wouldn't if you were in jeans. I moved to San Francisco when I just turned 21. So I came here to the Powerhouse. So I worked here, I go-go danced for a little bit, and the manager was like, hey, we're having this contest if you're interested. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I won. I went from Mr. Powerhouse Leather to Mr. San Francisco Leather. If you're lucky enough to win that title, then you go to the international contest. So I figured if I'm going to go to an international competition, I should go to have fun, but hey, why not try and win? It's really a worldwide thing. I mean, I joke that it's like the game is universe. There's something called pecs and personality, which is basically you wear a jockstrap. If you think of leather as more of a lifestyle, and if you get invested in the leather community, leather doesn't become just simply clothing or simply a material. It becomes a network of people, it becomes a network of organizations, it becomes a network of businesses. It gets to be more human.
Holden, watching the film this time, I mean, it is such a beautiful film, the images, and it's such a joy to work with someone who has such a clear point of view aesthetically. And I say work with Holden because as I watch your piece, you know, I'm inspired to make my own work better. And every time they were talking about craftsmanship, all I could think about, Holden, was the care and craftsmanship you put into this work. So congratulations.
Thanks for everyone for coming out. Setting out to do this project, I was like, how am I going to get like unfettered access to this community? So I just got a job at Mr. S, and that really worked out well. So I guess since my first semester in grad school, I've been thinking about this idea around leather and it being like this artifact of masculinity. And I wanted to know more about it, and I found out that there's this whole world behind it, and there's a community behind it, and it's so much more than I think people see from the outside, and it's not just intrinsically tied to kink or to sex. It's about, like one of my subjects said, it's about brotherhood, it's about camaraderie, and it's about unity. So, yeah. Any questions or? Yes.
The detail stuff of is that like I assume it's like close up shot of leather. Was that on video or was that a still photography?
That was video. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yes.
I love that it's in black and white. It's so perfect. What made you like? Did you start off thinking that you were gonna do it in black and white, or how did you come to that direction?
Yeah, I wanted it to be black and white. I've always been like inspired by Mapplethorpe's photography, and I just wanted it to have this like 70s type of feel to it. Yeah, I had a little bit of pushback from the person who helped me do camera, but I was like, no, it's gonna be in black and white. It's my film. So, but yeah. Oh, yes.
I really want to thank you for sharing this because, you know, I think in San Francisco it's so easy to feel like you're familiar. Like, of course I know what that is. I've lived here forever. Of course I know what that is. And yet here I'm watching this and I'm like, I did not know any of that. So thank you for being a documentarian digging deeper and bringing this to us. It's fabulous. Are you still working at Mr. S?
I am. You should come and visit. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, our final film this evening is Queen Nini by Callie, Lawson-Freeman, and Christopher Harris.
A 20-year-old woman from San Francisco is headed to the Tokyo Olympics, and she'll make history as the very first female weightlifter to represent Tonga.
She started lifting weights when she was 13 years old here at Lincoln High School. She credits her success to her coaches and her family.
My name is Queen Nini Monamua, and I am 20. And I am a student at SF State University. I'm studying business. I do Olympic-style weightlifting on the side. They don't have weightlifting at SF State.
From social media to national news, one weightlifter's story made waves all over the globe.
I did weightlifting, or started in high school. I was introduced to it freshman year of high school through Kevin Doherty. He's a weightlifting coach, a football coach, avid teacher. He does like a lot of things at Abraham Lincoln High School. I've never heard of weightlifting before in my life, and so when I went to Lincoln, for sports I did volleyball as a freshman. And so I thought I was gonna go like professionally for volleyball, but Doherty was like, oh, you should be in the weight room doing weightlifting. And so like I switched into his avid class. And then after that, I went into weightlifting, and it was just history from then.
A history that Coach Doherty loves to recall.
Some sport that it's like soccer.
Yeah, whatever. It's all good.
But it makes it actually look cooler. Yeah.
No, you're right. It looks better.
My name is Kevin Doherty. I teach 3 periods of AVID here at Lincoln and 2 periods of Olympic weightlifting. And I've been coaching in the district for 19 years, and I've been teaching in the district 17 years. So AVID is a national program that helps, basically is structural support for first-generation college kids to get academically ready and then apply and get into and attend 4-year colleges. Right now I have 126 seniors applying to college in my first 3 periods, which is probably the coolest part of my day. It's really motivating. We got some kids with some great stories, and Nini was in AVID. During volleyball season, I was walking down and I saw her walk into the lobby, and I was like, yo, who are you? What's your name? What sport do you play? I think the smartest thing I did is I just went to go meet her dad, who was picking her up. And I'm like, hey, I introduced myself. I said, hey, I'm the football coach, the weightlifting coach, and the track coach, and your daughter's gonna be really good at lifting weights. They were, they were probably caught off guard a little bit, but this was the beginning of the school year. But lo and behold, in November, she ended up like in the weight room.
When I first started out, I like hated it. And then going to competitions and like just doing really good in weightlifting, like I ended up falling in love with it.
What do your friends think about your weightlifting?
They're like kind of amazed I came this far, because I am too.
I did have her for 3 years academically and in PE. So she had me for 2 periods a day for 3 years. I still have one of her journals. She has like the best penmanship. Yeah, I have one of her journals. Like, she's just the most beautiful handwriting. So it kind of like little things like that stick in your mind to what like makes her different.
Nini fractured her patella during her first international meet a year before the Olympics.
She went on this like meteoric rise in terms of the rankings up until the age of 19, as she was finishing high school, going to college, handling her business. And I think when she got hurt, I mean, she was hurt for a while. School kind of, that strength in school kind of saved her because she had another outlet. And it was COVID and it was all, so I would say that, athletically, if it's on an up, academics may have been on a neutral.
Academics aside, Nini used her downtime to rehabilitate her injury and focus on coaching her sister.
She's in high school right now. She's a junior. And so, yeah, she's kind of like going through like the whole team.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my phone.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Can I grab that?
My name is Salome Manumua. I'm 15 years old and I weightlift. I'm Nini's younger sister by 5 years. I'm very proud of my sister that she was able to make it to Olympics. She probably told you guys how she broke her knee. Well, when she broke her knee, she was kind of sad about it. Like, I didn't think she was gonna lift again after her knees broke, because usually when you go through an injury, you take a break and then you don't come back to lift. But I'm really happy that she was able to come back. And the fact that she didn't have to get surgery, that's also a miracle. And I'm very proud of her.
She got really focused on her academics and, changed her major.
No longer studying science, Nini finds her new business major a little more bearable.
Last year I was just like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. It's hard to juggle 3 things at once, like school, athlete, and just personal life at home. So if you get kind of caught up with like personal life, like the other 2's not going so great. So you just kind of have to manage your time very wisely. And honestly, I've been doing it for so long, like 7 years now, and I'm still not like managing it wisely. Like I'm still struggling. but day by day. So.
Most would say she's managing much better than the rest of us non-Olympians.
Her journey to the Olympics was kind of multifaceted. It started in 2016 when I met somebody from Tonga at the Rio Olympics when I was coaching somebody else. And I talked to everybody. So it's like, oh, you're from Tonga? I got this Tongan girl. She's really good. She's going to go to the Youth Worlds and do this and do that. And he's like, why is she not lifting for Tonga? So we switched and we were released from USA Weightlifting. And then my good friend Benjamin Hua did all the paperwork, all of it. Like he switched her over, all the drug testing, the Adams profile, all these things that were very intricate. He got to do for Tonga. So he started entering her in all these meets.
I was born in American Samoa, but I lived in Tonga like all 10 years of my life from like when I was born, so I was 10. So I moved here to the US in 2010. But I grew up in Tonga with my grandparents and my parents, but my dad lived in the US for like a couple years. So that's why we like moved here. But it was like kind of a huge transition. Kind of in our culture, it's kind of shunned upon for a girl to like do like a guy sports like weightlifting. Not a lot of girls do weightlifting just because their parents or the mom or grandma or whatever, they're gonna be like, that's too like masculine and stuff like that. You become too buff. I mean, I am buff, so but I'm fine with it. But ever since there's been like word going around in like the Tongan community, like we have a Tongan weightlifter, a girl, especially at that's representing them. There's a facility that they built in Tonga right now. Yeah, because of the Tongan weightlifting president. He's like been super supportive of everything we've done. And so now they have like a lot of girl weightlifters from Tonga. Like that's super cool. And so a lot of the Tongans here around in this community and like other areas in San Francisco, like some of them are coming in to lift as well, like girls especially. So my sister's also doing it, so she loves weightlifting as well.
I want to represent Tonga and then hopefully go to the Olympics 2024.
Like in Tonga, like I'd go everywhere like barefooted, like stuff like that. Like I'd have to actually wear like shoes. And then I mostly spoke Tongan. so I had to really learn English. Even though like I went to an English school, like I wasn't that good at English. But coming here, I had to force myself to like learn English because I was bullied as a kid. Yeah, I was. Their kids were heck of me. Because
you don't have any social media, right?
I don't. I only have. Okay, so I have Facebook, but it's only because that's the only way my grandparents in Tonga would talk to me. Just scrolling through your phone, like getting distracted all the time like that, it's very overwhelming. Like I don't know how people do it. Like every time, I'm so serious. That scares me. Like people knowing like your every move everywhere. Like yeah, that scares me.
The fact that she doesn't have social media is so refreshing because she can just focus on her. She basically represents everything that is positive about womanhood. And I think that gets overlooked. I think the way she carries herself is like such a great example for younger women where you can just be who you are as a young woman, which is really hard today. Like, I need to be a better man if I'm going to be your coach. You know what I mean? Like, and I think she just like, she gets that, she pulls that out of people.
Naki Fiso-Molly can attest to the way that Nini impacts people.
I'm Naki Fiso-Molly. I'm the executive director and founder for a nonprofit organization called Pacifica by Design, where we push and promote positive Pacific Islander role models and entrepreneurs. I'm one of the hosts of the FICA podcast, and along with my partner, Carl Johnson, who is also a Pacific Islander.
Can you just tell me like why Nini's story was impactful to you?
Oh my gosh, I'm such a crybaby. So just because she's a Pacific Islander kid, she's living in basically the hood, you know, and I grew up in a low income area. And so I didn't have too many people that look like me following their passion. I heard about her on social media and I thought, oh my God, look at this young lady, you know, she has the possibility of winning a gold medal. She's so humble. She doesn't like to talk about herself. So when I contacted her to do an interview, she said, oh, can I have my coaches come on? Because I don't really talk that much. And so Coach D and Coach Ben did a great job of describing her. To come here and not speak the language and try to survive in a place that doesn't recognize you, because Pacific Islanders, the percentile of us in the city is like 0.3%. You know, I'm a Pacific Islander, and when we see each other, we're like, go, 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 you know. So it's just her setting an example. And I know she doesn't know this, but people are watching her. And even though she thinks she's not a role model, like kids are seeing her, someone that watched her on TV is thinking, if she can do it and come from where she came from, I can do it too. So I was really emotional talking to her because I was there. I've been grew up in that area. Not having too many examples. If she works at it, I mean, she's going to win an Olympic gold medal. I feel it. Just it was her first time, and it takes time and practice and heart, and she has the heart to get her where she needs to be.
These are all like youth nationals, junior nationals, like just throughout the years, like all the kids. Yeah, it's like.
Wait, so which one's you?
Of course not. You kind of just pick them out. This is me.
Yep.
And then there's like some here. Oh, there's also this one. This one's so ugly. But anyway, oh, this is my brother, right here. That's on his mission. And then this is my sister. Yeah, but these are like kind of all the kids from like our team, from youth nationals and junior nationals. They're like beasts. They're freaking beasts. I'm hoping to graduate college because I've been kind of taking my time.
Graduate from college, go to another Olympics, but go to another Olympics with a deeper purpose now that it's your second.
Right now we're kind of planning for the next Olympics. And there's also like my mom, I want to go on my mission, but my mom wants me to go as well. So I think I can kind of do all of them, I mean, in the next 5-year span. So getting all of those done, hopefully. Hopefully.
You know, one of our core values here at BECA, and one of the reasons I went into filmmaking myself, is this idea of social justice, that storytelling is such a powerful tool to help us to understand each other better, and especially those voices that are not often heard in mainstream media. And so, Chris and Callie, thank you so much for doing this story and for shining a spotlight on this community and this young woman from a community that we don't often see a lot about. So really, really well done. Thank you, guys.
Well, hi, you guys. You guys have no idea how much Nini's story means to me. I'm an athlete, and I love telling stories, but I really love telling stories about female athletes, especially female athletes of color, because statistically, we don't get as much media coverage, and she's someone that I feel like deserved like a spotlight, even though she's really humble. I'm so inspired by her, and I'm so grateful that she allowed me to like peek into her life. And I'm someone that came to this program with like not a lot of production experience, but I read an article about Nini on social media, and so I just like tried to like figure out how I could like get in touch with her. I was like, okay, she's in the city, I'm in the city. And because we're both athletes, I happen to know her coach's brother, who was a coach at that high school that I went to. And he put me in touch with Coach Doherty. And Coach Doherty was like, oh, you have to meet Nini. You guys be best friends. I'm recruiting her to coach for the weightlifting team, and you can coach for the track team. And you guys are going to just like completely work it out. And I'm so grateful that he made that introduction. And I'm so grateful that Nini was so gracious to tell her story. And then I poached Chris from his documentary to work with me like on mine like full time, and I don't think this would have gotten done without him, and I'm so grateful to Chris for making that happen.
I mean, this was like this type of story was so much fun to work on. Like the fact that like you got so many interviews that I'm like, how did you even do that? Like you even got us like a last minute interview to really tie the story together. Like for a while, it was just like how are we going to put this together? Like we have a great story and we really want to do right by Nini, and it finally came together at the end. And I was like, wow, like we really did an amazing job. But especially like you got us access to like so many cool interviews. Like you were really on top of everything. So like I could not have done my job if it weren't for you. So like I feel like we made a great team.
All right, guys, don't all rush at once to ask questions. Okay.
Editing, video work, everything. It was like neat, it was like meant to be. And I appreciate the story. And it's like dope. Like I don't really see anybody else like being able to have an interview with somebody who's like, like gonna go to the Olympics like that. So I appreciate the story a lot.
Thank you so much. I love. Oh, yes, Mom.
I love how the richness, the symbolism. It's like you show in that opening scene. She says, "I'm a business major. I do weightlifting, kind of like on the side, as a hobby." But she's with all this grace and poise. She's carrying so much. It's the school. Here she is bringing along her family, her culture. Like she's doing it. She's bringing her identity to it. She's not like shrinking, into what is here, but she's putting herself in. But it's new. I mean, and then to bring in the aspect of Tonga, because she owned her place. Like, she could have just said to the coach, no, I'm not really interested in doing that. I got too much else going on. But she went for it. Even after injury, now she's got Hongo. All these girls that she's bringing along, you see, she's lifting up so much. I mean, with this elegance and grace and poise, and I just hope you'll give her a hug for me.
Absolutely.
All the stories tonight inspired me. Every single one of them. I'm a crier. And so
Don't do that. Okay, next.
I just want to thank everybody. Like, every single one.
Oh, no.
Okay. They were beautiful. They were just beautiful. And really thank you for just creating a platform for all, for that to be. And I hope you guys will do a link because I share it with people in my job.
We will. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is why I don't think my mom places. No, I'm just kidding. I love you. Okay. All right.
Man, that was amazing. But what I wanted to say was, I think it would be very easy just to do it on this one person, this personal story. But to have it, you gave the whole context, right? Like, you put it in the cultural context of San Francisco, but also where she's coming from, with Tonga, talk to someone from her community, and it wasn't just about this one person in some ways. And I thought that was just really beautiful. And the sound and the slow-mos and
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I'd like to invite all our filmmakers up to the front, and we're going to take a class photo. So all you proud parents and friends, get your cameras out. And after that, please stick around to congratulate them. But thank you all so much for coming out and making this such a wonderful evening. We appreciate it.